a series where I break down the common arguments used by Christians to justify biblical slavery. In this video, we will be tackling the claim that biblical slavery was not actually slavery, but indentured servitude, where someone would sell off their freedom to work off debt. Now, while there is some truth to this claim, namely that ancient Hebrews were only allowed to take Hebrew men as debt slaves and were expected to be released after 6 years, this is hardly the only type of slavery that was endorsed by the Hebrew Bible. In Exodus 21, we see instructions for how a father might sell his daughter into sex slavery, and whilst parts of the law listed here had the intent of providing protections to the enslaved daughter, it is important to note that nowhere in the text are the authors concerned about whether she consents to this arrangement. We also see in Leviticus 25 instructions on how Hebrews were allowed to take foreigners as permanent slaves that could be passed down to the master's children as property. Another word for this is chattel slavery, akin to what was practiced in the United States. It is important to note that even in the case of the indentured servant, there were loopholes in place that could allow the master to manipulate his servant into becoming a chattel slave. If we return to Exodus 21, we see that a master could give an unmarried Hebrew man a wife among his slaves, but when he was to go free, his wife and any children would remain chattel slaves. The Hebrew indentured servant then had two choices: retain his freedom but abandon his family, or sacrifice his freedom and become a chattel slave in order to stay with his family. In conclusion, we can see that the claim that biblical slavery was limited to indentured servanthood is easily dismissed. The Hebrew Bible, otherwise known as the Christian Old Testament, endorses not only debt slavery, but sex slavery and chattel slavery. Anyone who claims otherwise either is ignorant of what the text actually says, or is being purposefully misleading.